We are 1 month into Overwatch 2 and things are in an interesting state. Well, a little bit over a month, but nonetheless I figured we would go over all of the things that have changed in Overwatch 2 and kind of just recap what we've seen so far. But most important of all, have you seen our website? It has hundreds of guides that are getting more and more advanced by the day, and they are all written by top level coaches in Overwatch, designed specifically to help you soar up the ranks and get Grandmaster. Go to GameLeap.com or follow the link in the description below, and I promise you will not find anything out there like this. Okay, so moving on into the topic today, we are going to go over all the changes that have been happening and all the stuff that has come out since the release of Overwatch and kind of talk about the state of things as they are right now. With us 1 month down the road, the hype for the initial launch of Overwatch 2, which was one of the most anticipated games around, is finally falling off, and we're starting to sort of taper into more realistic player numbers. This is not necessarily a bad thing, as this happens to pretty much any major game release. People come in, they try the game because they're hype about it, and then they get sort of distracted by the next major release coming out, and they just tend to go and do their own thing, or they don't like the game and they just decide to not play it anymore. But not too long ago, Blizzard had released a statement saying that 35 million people played Overwatch 2 in its first month, and that the average daily player numbers for the first month of Overwatch 2 were more than double that of Overwatch 1. And keep in mind that this is all without the PvE game mode that we were originally promised with the launch of Overwatch 2. They said that they would be releasing that later in 2023, and it's going to be great for some and not for others, but all the same it is going to breathe a breath of fresh air into the game once again. So as long as the team at Blizzard that's working on Overwatch is able to actually execute and pay attention to what the community is asking for, and they can push out updates in a timely fashion, then we have some pretty high hopes for the game moving forward, which let's talk about how that's gone so far. So entering into Overwatch 2, we had a few different bugs with a few different heroes that all got sort of, well, just deactivated outright. And I think that if you have a problematic character that has a game-breaking bug, it's okay to deactivate the character for a day or two. Yeah, it sucks, but I think the community can sort of get behind it and understand. But between Torb, Bastion, and Mei, they all got deactivated for weeks at a time. This is pretty distressing because, as I've mentioned on this channel before, having a character deactivated for this long is typically going to just push out players that wanted to main that character and were excited to main that character. And if it's weeks at a time, they are going to go and find something else to do, and that is going to hook them, and they might not return to Overwatch. It might just leave a bad taste in their mouth. And at a glance, I think it is because Blizzard is trying to make sure that each patch they push out addresses multiple problems and is actually a pretty big patch rather than releasing a ton of very small ones. And with Mei, for example, they ended up roping her bug fixes in with the balance patch that was leaked to be going out on the 15th and later got delayed to the 17th, which honestly is simply too long of a thing to do for something as major as having to remove an entire hero for your game. So in general, I don't think that it's for lack of trying that these heroes are stuck out of the game for a week at a time. I think it's just a sort of misalignment of priorities. But at the very least, we know that they are actually actively working on fixing bugs and trying to make sure people play fairly, which brings me into the next thing that I'm really excited for Blizzard to be doing so far in the game, and that is attacking cheat developers. Now, we did actually make a video on this topic earlier in this week, and be sure to like and subscribe to see when there's updates on stuff like this. But to pretty much summarize that video, there was a massive ban wave of cheaters, and on top of that, they also sent a cease and desist directly to a cheat provider. In other words, it went from being just making a program that's good at detecting another program into real life where Blizzard sent them a letter and said, knock it off or else we're going to take legal action. And since Blizzard is a multi-billion-dollar company, that is definitely not a letter you want to be receiving. Of course, the provider decided that it was best to not take that battle, and they shut down all of their services effective immediately, sending out a notification to the people in their Discord saying that our assistance software will no longer be available. Yeah, assistance software. Okay, buddy. In any case, this is a breath of fresh air because in Overwatch 1, there were dozens of cheat programs that made literally no effort to hide themselves or their communities, and Blizzard was simply not taking as much of a drastic action to deal with the upcoming cheat software and all the cheat developers, so it's good to see that they have since flipped the switch and decided to really throw around their weight as a company. And I can honestly say that since I started playing this game, I have only ran into one cheater, and that was in a quick play match, not even a competitive one. So yeah, hopefully Blizzard stays on path for this and continues to break these cheat developers down and keep the game fair. As far as new content goes, they have added some maps while removing some other ones. We've gotten the full new push game mode at the cost of the 2CP game mode, and they also removed some other maps like Havana, where they, I think, needed to do some balance fixes. But most importantly, the game has released with a steady flow of new heroes coming between Kiriko, Sojourn, and Junker Queen on the launch, and we got some information about Ramatra a few days ago, which again, we made a video on that. And hopefully Blizzard does actually make a point of nerfing new heroes sooner, because Sojourn and Kiriko have been dominating the pick rate as far as ladder goes and competitive meta. But nonetheless, I think it's important we have this steady flow of new heroes to change up the game and give us different ways to play, and I think that Blizzard's doing a good job so far. Blizzard in a Korean media conference said that the next 4 planned heroes are going to be Ramatra, which comes out in December on the 6th with the release of Season 2, another tank in 2023, which we don't know any details about, a support in Season 4, which is also going to be in 2023, again, no details on that, and a third character, which is going to be another support in 2023. So we have 2 tanks and 2 supports planned for the next 4 released heroes, and I'm guessing this is to sort of bring the hero pool number with the support and the tank roster up to par with the DPS roster, which has way more heroes than the other 2. So definitely more good news to come with that, and as soon as I have more details, I will be sure to put it out here on the channel. And finally, I think that we should probably talk about a major thing that everyone has been going over on Twitter and just in general everywhere. If you have been paying attention to Overwatch news today, you cannot have missed it. So Activision Blizzard has not renewed their contract with NetEase, which is important because this is what allows them to operate in China. This does really suck for our fellow Chinese Overwatch 2 fans, and it's going to take a small hit on the player numbers, but Blizzard has come out and said in a report that that was only about 3% of their revenue. Now, I am not from China, so I don't know how intense the community is for Overwatch, but in general, Blizzard saying that there's only 3% of their revenue coming from China makes me think that that's probably a very small community in the grand scheme of things. Now, Diablo Immortal, which is one of the biggest mobile games in China, is on a different contract, not the one with NetEase, so that is going to go unimpeded, which pretty much means that there's not a ton of incentive for Blizzard to really push super hard to renew these contracts. And in fact, based on some reports, it actually seems that it was somebody at Blizzard who damaged the relationship that NetEase and Activision had. According to Dexerto.com, there was a statement on LinkedIn where the president and head of global investment and partnership from NetEase said that he was heartbroken that he and others in the country will not be able to play Blizzard titles, and he even threw some shade at Bobby Kotick, who is the CEO of Blizzard. He went on to say, quote, "One day when what has happened behind the scenes can be told, developers and gamers will have a whole new level of understanding of how much damage a jerk can make. Feel terrible for players who lived in those worlds." Oh my graces, the language. But jokes aside, a president and head of global investment and partnership calling another executive level officer at a multi-billion-dollar company a jerk is about as close as you are going to get to cursing them out. But by far the biggest hit to Blizzard and especially to Overwatch 2 are going to be the fact that 4 of the teams in Overwatch League are based in China: the Chengdu Hunters, the Guangzhou Charge, the Hangzhou Spark, and the Shanghai Dragons. There hasn't been much word on exactly what this means for Overwatch League or the players going forward. One can kind of draw some conclusions on their own. The closest that we have is a spokesperson telling Dexerto, as Blizzard explores alternatives to NetEase, there could be an impact to the future of our esports business in the region. It's also interesting because the Shanghai Dragons are owned by NetEase themselves, so we really just have no idea what is going to happen to these teams or those players, but I can only hope the best for them. Okay, so with all of that wrapped up, let's take a look at the future and sort of recap what we've talked about so far. We have Overwatch 2, which has brought in a ton of new players and has more than Overwatch 1 pretty much ever did. And at this point, people who were here for the hype of the initial game launch have since fallen off, and now we're just left with the people who are actually invested in enjoying the game so far, and there are still a lot of them. We can be expecting new maps and new heroes coming out, and old maps to return with a bunch of new changes that make them more interesting and fun to play on. We've had a balanced team that is actually actively working, even if their priorities are a little bit misaligned at times as far as updating goes. They are still actively making the game better in my opinion, and Overwatch 2 is a much better experience than Overwatch 1 was. We have an anti-cheat team that is firing on all cylinders and is not afraid to throw their weight around as a massive multi-billion-dollar company that will pursue legal recourse against any cheat developers or those that would otherwise disrupt the flow of the game. And despite a bunch of interesting things going on behind the scenes, it seems that Overwatch 2 is still full steam ahead and is not going to be slowing down anytime soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you guys so much for watching this previous month in review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you think about some of the stuff we covered today down below. I love reading your comments and seeing what you guys have to say. I'll see you all again very soon, and check out our website. I'm telling you, it has some amazing content up there, so go and take a look. In the meantime though, guys, this has been Highway. It's always great speaking with you. I will see you all again very soon. Take care and peace.